The toughest sentence handed out for the death of Elijah McClain is no more. Breaking news this afternoon, a judge decided 5 years was too long for paramedic Peter Cichuniec. It's a development, a big one, in a case that's garnered international attention. The prosecutors who tried the case say they are disappointed in the decision to convert this to 4 years of probation. The mother of Elijah McClain says she's not surprised.
9 News investigative reporter Chris Vanderveen's been covering this case for years. Turns out it's kind of a procedural question that the court was answering today.
It is, and it's based upon the judge's interpretation of state law, and this is what it comes all down to. Courts can modify certain sentences after a defendant has served at least 119 days. Cichuniec has now spent more than that in prison, and thus his attorney made the request last month. In a court filing, prosecutors called this procedural move the escape hatch, noting that it's exceptionally rare, only used 22 times since 1977 in this judicial district. Cichuniec pled with the judge back when he was sentenced in early March, telling the packed courtroom he wished he could go back and make changes that would have saved Elijah McClain's life. The 5-year sentence was by far the toughest sentence for any of the 2 paramedics and 1 officer found guilty for their roles in the 2019 death. McClain stopped breathing shortly after paramedics injected him with ketamine. His mother told 9 News today she expected the leniency, adding, quote, "I'm not surprised at all. None of those involved have escaped divine judgments against them. I'm sure those sentences won't be televised." So now 5 years in prison is converted to 4 years of probation. Fellow paramedic Jeremy Cooper received 14 months of work release. Aurora police officer Randy Rodema received 14 months in jail. In this case, prosecutors had successfully argued to both the jury and judge that Cichuniec's decision to give McClain too much ketamine for his weight was critical in justifying this tougher sentence. The Colorado Attorney General prosecuted this case this afternoon. A spokesperson for the office said that the office was disappointed in the decision, but still respects it.
It's hard to hear that it's procedural, certainly for a lot of folks in Aurora who have been following this case for the family of Elijah McClain, who, I mean, they're deflated. This is a bit of a gut punch.
This is tough because they weren't satisfied with these decisions regardless.
That's right.
And now this decision of 5 years in prison to be taken away just to probation. Yes, absolutely a lot of disappointment tonight.
Mm-hmm. All right, Chris, thank you.
If there was anyone who deserved an entry on Operation Protect the White Boy, it's none other than this dude, Peter Cichuniec. Now, I never knew who this guy was or what his name was up until a couple of days ago, and I'm not shocked or surprised by anything that I or you just heard in that news clip or that news audio, where this guy had a 5-year prison sentence that literally just got wiped away. Literally just wiped out of existence and was reduced down to probation. I bet you if it was up to that judge who did that, he would have found a way to wipe away the probation. This guy literally was one of the contributing factors to why Elijah McClain is no longer here today. And if I'm not mistaken, I believe I read somewhere where it stated that this guy actually admitted to basically overdosing Elijah McClain, which aided in his untimely death. You had all of that, and you still said, you know what, he's done enough, and he's suffered enough. Not enough in my opinion, but he suffered enough, and we're gonna just decide to open up the door and let him just walk right on out of there. I mean, they just said right there in the news clip, they actually have a technical term for that too. I think they said it was back hatch or something like that, back door, back something. That's basically what it was. You basically opened the back door and allowed this guy to just walk away from what he did, and he had a 5-year prison sentence. And all of that is just gone and reduced to probation. And he said the usual thing, if I could just go back in time and undo what I did, I would. Would you though? Would you though? Because we heard the video. We saw the video and y'all was out there cackling and giggling where the cops were. You probably were too. It didn't seem like y'all was very apologetic with what y'all were doing. Y'all were having a good time slowly killing this young man. Let's be real here. We all saw it. And you had people out there that even when you saw what was happening with Elijah McClain and him literally dying right before your eyes, people were out there still doing and saying the same thing that they love throwing to black people each and every time they get. Oh, he should have complied. He shouldn't have resisted. Well, we don't have all the facts. You were looking right there at the video. What do you mean you didn't have all the facts? They were literally injecting this man with ketamine and lethal dosages of it as well. When you think about it, because he's no longer here. This guy, I almost want to call him a kid, but this young man was literally just minding his business, and then now he's dead. That's a story that's all too common, especially with a lot of young black men, or just black men in general, but especially a lot of young black men in their 20s and younger. Almost like a pattern when you put it into perspective. But like I said, we all saw the video. We all heard it. We all saw how they were acting there and how they basically tortured and ended up killing this man right there. And they treated it as if it was nothing. And they're basically getting handled with kid gloves like it was nothing. And I'm not surprised, because the way that they kept dragging this out and the way that stuff was coming out about this, I said they're gonna let all of them go. They're gonna let all of them walk, or at the very minimum, they're gonna give them these lightweight consequences, if you even want to call it a consequence. I said nothing is going to happen to these individuals for what they did to him. Nothing. And just like clockwork, I was right. So if there's anybody else that is involved with the death of Elijah McClain out there that we don't know about, you might be walking from this too. I mean, it's pretty obvious that they don't care. They let it be known. And ironically, this is happening in Aurora, Colorado, the same Aurora, Colorado that's right now being overran by those Venezuelans. Go figure. Maybe that's karma. I don't know. But with this situation right here, I'm not in the least bit surprised or shocked by it. And you want to know what's even more interesting about this situation? This was what they call a quiet release. The reason why I call it a quiet release is because nobody who was in the know or connected to this case, especially those on the side of Elijah McClain, like maybe his family or some attorneys or anybody who's part of these organizations, didn't even know that Peter was getting his sentence vacated up until he was already out. So really, none of them knew up until they found out he was released. They was like, wait a minute, when did this happen? They were literally the last to know. I'm actually on CBS News right now, and I'm gonna read a statement, a sentence coming from someone who's a part of the NAACP for Colorado. They said Thomas Hayes, the vice president for the NAACP for Colorado, Wyoming, and Montana, says his community had no idea Peter Cichuniec was even trying to get his sentence vacated. Now, peep that. They didn't even know he was trying to get it vacated. That means in the attempt to get it expunged, let alone find out that he actually did get it vacated. They said late Friday afternoon, when he learned one of the men found guilty and contributing to the death of Elijah McClain would soon be getting out of prison, he felt a rush of emotions. He says McClain's mother, Shanine McClain, is even more heartbroken, which I'm not shocked by. I mean, that is his mother at the end of the day. And keep in mind, this Peter Cichuniec guy, he was found guilty of criminally negligent homicide last year. And this judge, who they have not named, and I find that interesting that they don't like to name these judges when they do stuff like this. But the judge saw it and said, you know what, he suffered enough. Let's just go ahead and just let him go. That's literally, might as well what the judge might as well have said. He suffered enough. Let's just go ahead and just let him go. That is a load of crap. And this is exactly why I do the Operation Protect the White Boy. It's been a while since I've done one, but this one right here, for sure, definitely deserved an entry.